Unlike today's highly homogenized rifles and carbines, World War II was, in many ways, the Wild West of firearm design. While weapon design trends weren't as experimental or radical as those in the Great War, they were a far cry from the mostly standardized intermediate cartridge select fire weapons fielded by most militaries today. And that variety is why I enjoy collecting them so much. If guns were cars, every vehicle today would be a Japanese crossover. Functional, utilitarian, and good at everything, but really not outstanding at any one thing. But this wasn't true in World War II, and many of those designs became classics that would either inspire world-class designs that still persist today, or inspire collectors to hoard them jealously. And while classics like the M1 Garand or the MG42 get all the glory, what about the underdogs? Today we're delving into 5 overlooked World War II guns, exploring why they never became legends and why every shooter should give them a second look. So whether you're an avid gun collector, a newbie who's only shot these things in video games like Battlefield or Enlisted, or just a history buff, the following 5 guns will hopefully broaden your horizons and give these underdogs another chance. Number 1. The Smith & Wesson Model 1917. Back in World War I, production had to be ramped up before the Army could field the handgun that would capture the hearts of every white monster-sipping boomer on the planet, the 1911. That meant they needed a stopgap, something easier to produce in the same caliber to simplify logistics until production could catch up. That solution came in the form of the US Model 1917. But here's the kicker. It wasn't one gun, it was 2. See, the War Department needed a metric ton of these damn things, and no single gunmaker could produce enough revolvers to meet demand. So what do you do when neither of the 2 most prolific revolver producers, Smith & Wesson and Colt, could handle a workload? You give the contract to both of them. And both companies came up with their own solution that was accepted by the War Department, but the solutions weren't the same. Though their approach most certainly was. They modified an existing design to simplify production. For Colt, it was their new service revolver, previously chambered in big bore calibers of the day like .44 Special, and for Smith & Wesson, they modified their end-frame .44 hand ejector. Now the other criteria for this gun was that it be chambered in .45 ACP, use moon clips, hold 6 rounds in a cylinder, be double action, be durable enough for military use, have simple fixed sights, and feature a lanyard loop on the bottom of the grip for cavalry units. And although both designs met or exceeded the design criteria, the Smith & Wesson model was objectively better for 3 major reasons. The Smith could function without the moon clips, the design cylinder lockup was way more robust, and the cylinder release latch, the push forward not pull back, is much easier to manipulate. Now this addition to our list didn't really fail, it just never gained the popularity of the gun it was designed to supplement, the 1911. That said, the end frame it used went on to form the basis of the .44 Magnum Model 29 of Dirty Harry fame.
Go ahead. Make my day.
Meaning the gun still lives on in some sense. As for why you should buy one in 2025, they are unique pieces of history that saw action in World War I, II, Korea, and Vietnam, yet were built so tough that most are still functional today. Plus, unlike many World War II handguns, they aren't chambered in either an anemic or rare cartridge, making them a functional piece of history and not just an expensive wall hanger. Number 2, the M44 Mosen. Like the aforementioned Smith & Wesson 6-shooter, this next gun on our list is both a modification of an existing design and a proven lead slinger capable of handling even the worst conditions of war. During the brutal conflict of the Eastern Front, the desperate Soviet army clashed with Nazi forces in some of the bloodiest fighting of the Second World War. While initial skirmishes were fought among the plains of Eastern Europe, later battles occurred not just street to street, but house to house and room to room. The lengthy Mosen Nagant 9130 rifles performed well in those open battlefields, but were ill-suited to close combat and auxiliary or mobile troops who needed something smaller and handier. The Soviet solution was typical of the era. Cut the existing guns' barrels down and permanently attach a folding bayonet to make them more compact. Ballistics and muzzle blasts be damned. The new cut-down Mosen was given the moniker M44, and the rest is history. At the time, the new gun was merely a footnote in Soviet small arms design, but when surplus guns hit stateside in the early 2000s, the M44 gained a reputation as the king of kaboom, the blastiest trash can rod ever made. But unlike American civilians, Soviet soldiers who had been issued the gun had a very different impression of the new Mosen. Both motorized and assault troops appreciated the shortened length for maneuvering at close quarters, and the folding bayonet was much easier to deploy in the middle of combat and virtually impossible to lose, even for a Soviet soldier. So why did it fail? Well, like the Smith & Wesson revolver, the M44 didn't truly fail. It was simply replaced, along with the vast majority of Soviet small arms at the time, by the AK-47 and later the AKM. Despite this, many Soviet satellite nations continued to field the gun in guerrilla or auxiliary roles like the Viet Cong in Southeast Asia, where its reduced range wasn't a tremendous setback. Modern shooters can appreciate the M44's impressive terminal ballistics, eyebrow-singeing muzzle blast, and relatively affordable ammunition. While the days of $99 Mosens and 10-cent ammunition are long gone, the Mosen 7.62x54R cartridge is still roughly the same price, or slightly cheaper, than 308/7.62. Plus, if a shooter grabs some expanding ammunition, it makes a great deer rifle that will likely outlast the shooter and their grandkids. Number 3, the Carcado M9128 Moschetto. The Italian military's weapons in World War II got a bad rap for poor quality, but this reputation wasn't totally earned. Fascist Italy's submachine guns were some of the best designs at the time, but their rifles, they were a different story. In particular, the Carcado M9128 Moschetto has long since been considered one of the worst of the war. But that's not entirely fair. Yes, it featured some terrible sights that required a really odd sight picture where you had to bury the front sight behind the rear sight, God knows only why, and its 6.5x52mm cartridge was anemic by comparison to 7.62 54R or 8mm Mauser, and truth be told, the action is about as smooth as dragging a cinder block on concrete, but not everything about the Italian stallion was bad. The compact Carcano was very lightweight at 7.5 pounds, and the integral folding bayonet ensured soldiers caught in close quarters always had a stabby option at the ready. Plus, the reduced power of the 6.5 Carcano round had a very soft recoil impulse, and the 6-round Mannlicher clips were very fast to reload in the gun, even if they're a little bit flimsy. Also, who named somebody Mannlicher? Anyway, why did it fail? Well, the Moschetto filled its role as a compact cavalry weapon decently, but the low-powered rounds severely limited its effective range. The Italians tried to remedy this by rechambering many of the Carcanos, but by that point in the war, Italy was losing badly, and a massive shift in logistics caused by changing the entire nation's primary rifle cartridge wasn't viable and was downright. So, why should shooters consider the Carcano for their collection in 2025? Well, historical significance aside, the rifles are very inexpensive, with some recent imports being available for under $300. Plus, a good portion of the 9128 Moschettos are actually from World War I, which to me makes them extremely interesting. The only downside of the high cost of ammunition, between 80 cents and $1 a round, and the subpar accuracy with surplus ammo, around 3 to 4 MOA. And if nothing else, it's the only World War II gun to literally blow a president's mind. Number 4, the Japanese Type 38. Speaking of underpowered military cartridges, this next gun is a personal favorite of mine. The Japanese Type 38 chambered in 6.5x50. An antiquated design by the war's beginning, the Type 38 proved to be the most durable bolt action of the war. Featuring a massive 31.4-inch barrel, the Type 38 looked every part of a World War I long gun, but its caliber limited its effective range, especially compared to the US 30-06 and German 8mm rounds that were its contemporaries. However, the bright side of this anemic 6.5 Japanese round is that it was incredibly pleasant to shoot. With a recoil impulse close to 30-30 Winchester, this Japanese bolt gun shoots more like a Q-Fix or a Sig Cross and not a World War II weapon. Typical of Mauser-based rifles of the era, the Type 38 feeds from an internal 5-round magazine that can be charged with stripper clips. Original clips are expensive and hard to find, but Swedish Mauser clips work and are around $2 each. So why did it fail? Well, primarily because of the limited effective range of its cartridge, which wasn't a big deal in the early years of Imperial Japan's war in Asia. After all, they were waging their own version of blitzkrieg, and most of its adversaries lived in tropical or somewhat urban locations with limited firepower and themselves no armor, where the limited range of the 6.5 Japanese round didn't really come into play. But after the Japanese witnessed the incredible effectiveness of the 7.7mm Type 92 machine gun, they wanted their service rifle chambered in that same round. And they got it, the Type 99. And while it was designed to replace the Type 38, it actually served alongside it till the end of the war. So why should shooters buy a Type 38 in 2025? Well, for me, I didn't have any Japanese guns and I'd always wanted one. And after shooting the Type 38, oh, it's like a dream. The combination of smooth action, soft recoil, and fascinating history hooked me until I saw the damage to my wallet. Because while the guns themselves can be had for between $450 and $900, depending very heavily on condition, the ammo will run shooters about $250 to $3 a pop, making recreational shooting of the rifle either very expensive or something only shooters who regularly reload should attempt. The final entry into our list of World War II underdogs is the Czech VZ24. Based on the Imperial Germany's standard service rifle of World War I, the Gewehr 98, the VZ24 is a Czech take on the Kar 98. That is, a shortened, full-sized rifle. And just like the Gewehr it was derived from, the VZ feeds from a 5-round internal magazine that accommodates stripper clips and is chambered in the hard-hitting 8mm Mauser round. Unlike the K98, the VZ24 uses an older style straight bolt handle, which makes the gun a little bit faster to cycle, but a pain in the ass to carry when it's slung over your back. As far as history and significance, the VZ doesn't have the same kind of provenance that our other rifles in this list have, but it does have one very nice distinction. It's the most cost-effective, long-action Mauser-style rifle chambered in an 8mm Mauser available on the surplus market today. So if you've always wanted a Kar 98 but can't swing $1,000 for a legit one, the VZ makes a great substitute. Plus, the ammo right now is surprisingly affordable at around 30 cents a pop. Now, these are just a handful of the underdog guns of the Second World War, but some of the ones that I was inspired to purchase after reading about the conflict for truthfully over 2 decades. If you guys think I should have had different guns or these guns are terrible or whatever, let me know in the comments, and who knows, man, maybe there'll be a part 2. Anyway, for Burst Review, I'm Jim Grant. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe for more Burst Reviews.